Just push it once, yeah. Okay, we are in Hilchos Sefiras Haomer. Alright. Just to conclude where we left off, so we are in Siman Tav Pei Tet. So yesterday we just pointed out, we read Gimel, and so there was a Tanai if a person's going to read the account after Shkia. Pashtos we're talking about after Shkia, although it might be, whatever the case is, whatever the Shulchan Aruch had in mind, and then before Tzeis. So what should we do? So he makes a Tanai, let him say it now without a bracha, and he'll make a Tanai. If now is the Zman already is correct for Sefiras Omer, I'm being Yotzei now. No, take it back. Well, there's that. And if I don't count later, then it counts right now. But if now is not the Zman, or if I'm going to count later, then I'm going to be Yotzei later, and because this way he can count again with the bracha later. That's what we said. Just as an aside, there's a somewhat similar comparison we make. There's no bracha involved by people who daven Kriyat Shema. If they come to Shul late, or the Shul says it after the Zman, so they say Kriyat Shema, or it's a question if they're going to make the Zman, or a question of Magen Avraham versus the Gra, people make a similar Tanai if they say it earlier at home. But okay, let's get back to the point about Sefiras Omer. So what happens if a person b'diavad, l'maisa he counts with or without a bracha before Shkia, after Plag? Are you Yotzei? So Mikardin, generally speaking, across the board, we all say you're not Yotzei if you counted before Shkia. However, there is an opinion that you are Yotzei before Shkia, as long as it's after Plag. So, if you look in the Mishnah Bura, Bir Alacha, or Pischei Teshuvos, it goes a little bit back and forth. What you should do, I would recommend just Safek Bracha Sahakel, count again without a bracha. But there are opinions both ways. Okay. What happens if you're going to do between Shkia and Tzeis? So, Mi'ikar Adin, there is a chiyuv. It's a mitzvah of the nighttime. Mitzvahs start with Shkia, especially since it's an Issa Daraban. It's a mitzvah Darabanan, we hold. Generally the poskim say, starting from Shkia, if you count it, you're 100% Yotzei. And you don't have to repeat it again after Tzeis. And you continue the next day, of course, counting with the bracha, etc. What comes out though from Gimel is that, what should you do lechatchila? So number one, lechatchila, we got it from Bet and Gimel. The best is to daven Marv after Tzeis, and you're going to be counting after Tzeis, no problem. What happens if there's a minyan? The minyan's not going to happen if they wait till after Tzeis. They're davening after Shkia. Should they count with the bracha? So it's a bit of a machlokas, what they should do, but it seems to be generally most poskim and the minhag is, if there's a minyan kavua doing it, in such a case, they count with a bracha. Okay? What applies to an individual, which is more what Gimel is. You're an individual. You're davening at this minyan. Again, every achor's going to have a little bit of a take. Are you kavu at that minyan? Not kavu at the minyan? Whatever. Bottom line, you're an individual. You're a bal nefesh. You want to be machmir. You think you're going to remember to say it later, after Tzeis. You yourself, it would be better for you yourself. You're not being parish min etzibur. You're just quietly not saying the bracha and making this tanai to yourself quietly. And for yourself, it's better to say the bracha and count again after Tzeis. Unless you know you're not going to remember, then just count with them with the bracha, and that's also fine. Okay. And just to point out that it's also what is Tzeis. So it gets confusing. It could be 14 minutes, 20 minutes, 35 minutes, depends where you live, etc. Interesting, the Minchas Yitzchak and Birkei Yosef say, I saw this in Pischei Teshuvos and Birkei Yosef inside, that once you hit, Birkei Yosef says once 14 minutes passes, that's the earliest says, and he says it's better to say Sefiras Omer with the minyan, with the bracha, than to be machmer for, let's say, Rabbeinu Tam was the situation. Again, whatever your tzeis is, so it seems to be, don't take this chumrah of Gimel as a yachid to be machmer for the Zman or Rabbeinu Tam, but whatever your normal tzeis, depending where you live, your latitude. latitude, right? Closer to the South Pole. And depending on, who you follow, 14 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. 35 minutes is probably too long for Eretz Yisrael, for an earlier tzeis. Maybe for America or Europe it's more appropriate. Okay, let's go on. Dalet. Your friend asks you, okay, what day is it? Starting from Bein Hashmashos and on. He asks you what time it is, perhaps to be machmer for plug. But again, the Mikar din, we're going with Shki over here. And your friend asks you, what day is it? And you tell him, Yomar lo etmol haya kach v'kach. The best thing to do is just tell him, yesterday was this number. Why? She'im yomar lo hayom kach v'kach. If you say the words today, that's very important. If you say hayom kach v'kach, once you tell him today is, and you're talking about Sefiras Haomer, even if you don't say the word la'omer, ba'omer, whatever, you do not count again with the bracha. Again, if you beferush had in mind, I'm not being yotzei, so then probably you could go ahead and still say it with the bracha. If you left out the word hayom, you can still go ahead and count the bracha. Shulchan Aruch writes though, if you're just answering a number and you did it before Bein Hashmashos, before Tzeis, before Shkia, even after plug, you didn't do anything. So again, it's a question what to do. Fine, let's go on. Haga. Ukishehigia hazman, once the zman starts, where you're chayav in Sefiras Haomer, asur lechol ad sheyisbar. You're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to eat until you count. At least you can have a taste. You can't have more than a kibetza of bread. Some even add 30 minutes, but many say you don't have to. The sphere is only derabanan, so you don't have to add the extra 30 minutes. And if you started to eat be'eser, so then posek v'sofer, you have to stop and you have to eat. You have to count. Now, we could be makel because we hold this derabanan. You'll see the Ramaz, this whole Ramaz is based on Amanda Amr, who says it's deraisa, and it could be he's being machmer like him, but Mishnah Berurah says the poskim are makel.
Is that what the Shulchan Aruch holds?
I don't know what the Ramah personally holds, but the general consensus is we definitely all hold it's derabanan. We hold the sphere as derabanan. Meal. Im hitchel lechol kodem sheyagia hazman. If you began to eat before the zman, eino tzarich lahafsik ela gomer achilato v'sofer achar kach. If you started eating before the zman even started, perhaps even 30 minutes we mentioned, since you started beheter, you do not have to stop in the middle. Some say you should anyway, because all you have to do is just takes 2 seconds to say the bracha and to count. And you also you don't want to forget, v'chulei v'chulei. But you're not obligated. You're allowed to keep eating. Okay. Hey, im eino yodea hacheshbon. You don't know what day of Sefiras Haomer is. Upatach hadaita, and you start saying the bracha. Baruch ata Hashem dilasayem kemo shishma chavero v'shatak ad sheshama chavero v'siyem kamohu yatza. So when you started the bracha, you had no idea what the day was. You were just going to count the bracha with everybody else in the room, and you're going to listen. You're going to pause after the bracha, wait a few seconds till you hear what number everybody else is saying, and then you're going to jump in and say the bracha. So he says you should not do that. Because lechatchila, you're not supposed to make a hefsek, even if it's a quiet hefsek. You're going to have to pause for an extra few seconds, considerable amount of time, even if it's 2-3 seconds. It's like a real pause. He said, don't do that. If you did it, you are yotzei, because it's just a small pause, and you're yotzei, it's not a hefsek. But lechatchila, what you should do is just don't say the bracha until you hear the number that everybody's saying. And once you know exactly what number it is, then you should say the bracha. There's also an inyan you're going to see in Vav, that whenever you say a bracha, it's important that the bracha, when you say the bracha itself, you're confident you know what it's for. Both at the beginning of the bracha and both at the end of the bracha. It's actually, it's kind of complicated. For Si'i Vav, if you start learning the Torah in the Beit Yosef, how we're going to see. But you see that it's important from the bracha itself to have kavanah. Or any bracha. Let's say you can have a bracha on food. One's a bracha, one item is in front of you, is a shahakol, another thing's adama, eitz. When you start saying the bracha, you shouldn't start the bracha until you know what it's on, or what the proper bracha is. You're going to say b'pri eitz, b'pri adama. All the way from the bracha, the whole thing should be with the proper kavanah. Okay, so that's really a proper intro to Vav. Im patach ve'amar, and a person starts saying the bracha and says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Adaita dilema hayom arba'a. Shehu savur shehem arba'a. Wait, how did I read this? You think that you have in mind that the day is number 4 when you say the bracha. And you think, shehu savur shehem arba'a, and you think that there's number 4. So that's what you have in mind when you say the bracha. V'nizkar. But then, when you finish the bracha, now, again, it's a whole discussion. Are you remembering when you say, Al Asher Kiddushan, Al Sefiras Haomer, or are you remembering when you finish the bracha completely? Okay? V'nizkar v'siyem b'chamisha. And then, when you we'll just say like this, when you finish the whole bracha, and then you realize, oh, today is actually the 5th day, so the entire bracha you said when it's the kavana of the 4th day, and then when you finish the bracha completely, you find out it's the 5th day, v'hem chamisha, and then you actually say, the 5th day. So then we're going to see eino chozer u'mavarech. Then you're yotze, and you don't have to repeat counting, and you don't have to say the bracha all over again. Again, it could be it's actually going on the end of the bracha itself. Okay. Oh, ipcha. Now here's the opposite. This is where depends how you read the Shulchan Aruch. A lot of the Achronim argue on the Shulchan Aruch, but it depends how you read it. It goes like this. Oh, ipcha, or the opposite case, kind of the opposite case. Shehem arba'a upatach, and it's not just the Shulchan Aruch. He gets it from the Torah, and then, anyways, whatever. Let's go on. Oh, ipcha shehem arba'a upatach adaita dilema arba'a v'ta'a v'siyem b'chamisha. So what happens? It is the 4th day. And you had in mind, right? It is the 4th day. You had in mind to say for the 4th day, but at the end, v'ta'a v'siyem b'chamisha. And in the end, for some reason, you finished with the 5th day. Then you're Yotzei. So, again, depends how you read this. It could be your Yotzei because when you said you Yotzei the bracha, so that also depends how you read this. The problem is it's a very difficult thing to follow how to read, and there's different ways to read it. And I don't want to explain every single one. That'll take us too long. But the main point is, if you ended off the bracha, and when you said the bracha, you had in mind the 5th one, he says Yotzei, but you have to at least count the 4th one to be Yotzei, right? So that's what many of the Achronim are learning. He said the whole thing on the 4th, with the kavanah of the 4th day, and it is the 4th day, v'siyam b'chamisha, and then you counted only the 5th day. So you completely counted the wrong day. So if you learn that that's what the Shulchan Aruch means, you counted the wrong day, and then he concludes, eino chozer u'mavarech, how could you be Yotzei? He says you are Yotzei. And all the Achronim say, but how can you got the bracha right, but you got the day wrong. You counted the wrong day.
Doesn't understand how you can be Yotzei with the bracha. Because, there's a hefsek.
So it depends if it's Tachadei Dibur or not. It seems to be, though, in general, the rule's like this. Lechatchila, the bracha has to be done with the right kavana for the right day. But at B'diavad, if you said the bracha for Sefiras Haomer, so it works, even if you had the wrong day in mind. But the main thing is that when you count, you have to, as long as you counted the right day, you're going to be Yotzei. But if you if you counted the wrong day, you're not going to be Yotzei. And you do have Toch Kadei Dibur to correct yourself on the day. That's the Mishnah Berurah writes. Others write, Shulchan Aruch, for example, you even have a little longer than Tochadei Dibur, as long as you didn't have a hefsek. As long as you still had in mind this bracha is for Sefiras Haomer, and you didn't have a complete hefsek and give up, then you can still count with, and you yotze. And bottom line, it's probably better to do this, the way I explained it at the end, so you don't have an issue of Safek Bracha Sahaka repeating the bracha, and as long as you count the right day on the right day, you're yotze, and you continue tomorrow as regular, with the bracha. Clear enough? Zayin. Shachach v'lo berach kohalayla. If a person says the bracha, forgets to say the bracha and forgets to kol halayla, and forgets to count kol halayla. He doesn't say the bracha, he doesn't count the whole night long. So what happens? Comes the morning. So yispor bayom, you count during the day below bracha. So during the day you count out a bracha, because most poskim hold, and Mikar din, that is the halacha, that as long as you count during the day, that counts. Right? Whatever. No pun intended, but as long as you count during the day, that counts, because this day is also the zman of Sefiras Haomer. However, there are some poskim, or Rishonim, who say, no, the zman is only at the nighttime. And therefore, because you have to have shleimus, it has to end up being a full day. So you need the night and the day to be included in your counting. So you have to count from the night before. And if you miss that night, then that's it. You blew it. You blew it for the day. And then there's a separate machloket that because of shleimus, tiana tamimos tiana, can you count? Does every day count by itself, or can you miss one day and still continue counting every other day with the bracha? So basically, we put a little bit together as sveika lakula, and that works. Okay. So if you count during the day only, so for that day you don't say a bracha, but you are allowed to continue counting with a bracha. Okay. Chet. Im shachach levarech be'echad mehayamim. You forgot to count one of the days. Bein yom rishon, bein mishar yamim. Doesn't matter if it's the first day or any day. Just the first day is a little more embarrassing. Sofer b'sha'ar hayamim below bracha. So you continue counting all the other days, because Mikar din we hold it's not me'akev one day to another, and of course you want to be mekayim the mitzvah. At least according to those opinions. So that's what you do, but you don't say the bracha to be choshesh. For the other opinion, it says you have to count every day and without missing one day. Okay, aval im hu mesupak im dileg yom echad velo safar. But a person is not sure if he missed a complete day. He thinks he maybe counted every day. Maybe he missed one day. Maybe he had issues. I'm not going to get into all the backwards and forwards, but let's say you travel dateline, no dateline. Or issues of whatever, night never goes, whatever you hold as a safek, yispor b'sha'ar yamim bivracha. You still count the next day with a bracha. If it's only a safek, again we say safek brachos, like a sveika type of thing. Okay, but it's only it's a machloket if all the days have to be one unit, if each one is tailoi zeh bazeh. Okay. And what's also good to do is if you are in a case of a safek, what you could do for the rest of your days is just listen to your friend or the shaliach tzibor's bracha, and then count yourself and be yotzei with his bracha, and then you completely avoid the question. Okay. Tet. Leil Shabbos v'il Yom Tov mivarchim v'sofrim achar kiddush b'veit knesset. So Friday night or Yom Tov night. So you say the bracha, and you count, but when? So he says, Achar Kiddush b'Veit HaKnesset. In the Beit HaKnesset, you should do Kiddush first. Why? Because we want to be Mekadei Shabbos as early as possible. You want to declare Zachar Yom Shabbos HaKadsho as early as possible. So you do that first, and then you do the next mitzvah of Sefiras Haomer. Motzei Shabbos v'Yom Tov. It's the opposite, because you want to extend Shabbos as long as later. So at the end of Shabbos or Yom Tov, what do? First you do Kodem Havdalah. First you say Sefira, and then you do Havdalah, because you want to push Havdalah off. And then that's Achar Kaddish Tiskabel. But you say it right after Kaddish Tiskabel, because that's Kaddish is connected to the Shemona Esrei. So it's a little bit of a different topic. It's right. It's after Tefillah. Ukishachal, right, generally Ashkenazim, whatever, say it before Aleinu, and Sephardim say it after Aleinu, whatever that's worth. Ukishachal Yom Tov Achron Shal Pesach L'Motzei Shabbos Ta'az Omer Kiddush V'Avdala B'Pa'am Achas. Now, what happens if it's Yom Tov? And the other thing is, you want to say, if you're at home, first you count, where does he say it? Does he say it here? No, do we learn it here? Anyway, at home you say Kiddush first, you say Sefira first, because you don't want to be eating, and you don't want to be eating before you count Sefira. So just before the whole Suda, and Kiddush is part of the Suda, you say it's better to say Sefira at home first, if you didn't say it in Shul, and then you say, okay, I think that was in the Mishnah Berurah, so I saw that. Okay, Ukeshachal Yom Tov Achron. Okay, now it comes, let's say Yom Tov Achron, and that's, so you're counting Sefira on the Yom Tov Achron, right? The first day Yom Tov, it's Sefira didn't start yet. So you're on the second set, or second time of Yom Tov, the seventh day, and it's of Pesach, and it happens to come out on Motzei Shabbos. The Az Omer Kiddush Avdala B'Pa'am Achas, and you're saying Kiddush and Avdala at one time. So what do? There's Kiddush for Yom Tov and Avdala for Shabbos. So Yesh Lispor Kodem Shemavarchim Alakos V'Veit HaKnesset. Even in the Shul this time, you first count. Why? Because what takes precedence, which is more holy? Shabbos. So we look at Shabbos. So we focus on Havdalah, because Havdalah is for Shabbos. Kiddush is for Yom Tov, but we care more about Shabbos than we do for Yom Tov. So we look at Havdalah, and Havdalah, well, we learned, you want to say Havdalah as late as possible. So therefore, in Shul, you would say Sefira first, so that Havdalah comes out afterwards. And Memela, the Kiddush with Yakna comes out also after Sefira. That's in the Beit Knesset. V'im ein lo yain v'tzorech chadash haknahaz. Okay, look at Reish Tarivav. Yud. Okay, the last seif. Asur le'echol chadash af bazman hazeh. There's an eser to eat chadash even nowadays. Now, according to most opinions, most rishonim, this applies even bizman hazeh de'araisa. There's only one opinion among the Tanaim, one opinion in the rishonim that says chadash is nowadays only Isser Darabanan. So Lamaisa we hold Chadash is an Isser Daraisa. And we're going to see it applies, the Rishonim say it applies equally in Chutz La'aretz and in Eretz Yisrael. That's the majority opinion. And so therefore, Bein Lechem, it doesn't matter if you turn it into bread. Bein Kali, Bein Carmel, if you roast it. Ad Chilas Lel Yurchet Ben Nisan, that's in Chutz La'aretz. So you're not allowed to eat it until Yurchet B'Nisan, because you have to wait until the full full day of the Omer, the whole day of the Omer that it could be brought, which we know is the second day of Pesach. Ube'eretz Yisrael atchilas lel Yud Zayin B'Nisan. You have to wait until the 17th at night, because the 15th is the first day. That's not when the Omer is brought. It's the 16th day when the Omer is brought. So you have to wait that whole day to be over. Right? We hold nowadays, it doesn't go by it originally goes by the Zman of when the Omer is brought. And there's a whole discussion if it should be the morning or the afternoon, right? But Lamaisa, we hold, it's, after the whole Takana, it means the end of the day. The whole day is Asr. And therefore, whether it might be Deraisa, it might be Derabanan, but the whole day Lamaisa is Asr. And so therefore you have to wait to the 17th. And in Chutz La'aretz, because it's Sveika de Yoma, you get the extra day and it turns into Yud Chet. And just to point out, when it comes, in order for Chadash to be turned into Yashan, it has to be Nishrash, it has to take root before Tet Zayin Ben Nisan, and that's either 3 days or 2 weeks. We'll see more on your Adea. And it applies to the 5 grains. Just to point out, we know that some people are makel, in particular in Chutz La'aretz, because it's very difficult. Really, the poskim point out one should be machmer, but at the end of the day, it is very difficult, and most people are makel, at least as far as I know in the past. And it's best to be machmer, because that is really mikar din, at least according to the Sfarim. And one of the Haterim is, the Ramaz is famous Sveika, Shama, it was planted before the Zman, and even if it wasn't, maybe it was Nishrash before the Zman, and many of course don't understand, but that's really one suffix perhaps. And some say it's a machlokas, you could be mekel, but in chutz la'aretz, perhaps it's only derabanan, and so therefore one suffix might even work. But anyways, that's it for today.